What's up, A pushers? We're almost done with content here. We're at Bill Clinton. You've come so far. Don't stop now. You got this. You got this. All right. So Bill Clinton, 42, and he goes from president from 1993 to 2001. All right. Election of 1992. What you need to know is there's two major candidates. One, you've got the vice president under Ronald Reagan, who became president, and his name, Herbert Walker Bush. He is going to be a Republican running against Bill Clinton, who is the governor of Arkansas. And really, Herbert Walker Bush is very popular. He won the war in the Persian Gulf in 4 days, so he should be winning, but Bill Clinton appeals to the masses. And so what he does is he appears on The Tonight Show and plays the saxophone, and Roseanne Connor in in the show Roseanne, he's referenced a few times. So maybe that helped him get elected. On top of the fact that there's a third-party candidate, a billionaire from Texas named Ross Perot, and he basically says the government is too big, and we need to deregulate stuff. We're spending way more money than we should. All right. So the bottom line, what you need to know is Bill Clinton wins because of the Democratic Leadership Council, which basically takes a centrist position. All right. Democrats tend to be liberal, but they're saying, look, we've got a lot of Republican issues out there. We need to kind of cater to the Republicans too. So instead of being way left, Bill Clinton kind of stays kind of in the middle and tries to get Democrats and Republicans to vote for him. And guess what? He wins, and everyone's kind of shocked, but he does win. All right, in terms of health care, you got to know that Hillary Clinton is behind this, and Bill Clinton is fully supporting it. It's really the first time that a first lady is really proposing things to Congress. I mean, Eleanor Roosevelt and Jackie Kennedy have kind of done things, but this is like a first full-bore attempt by a first lady. The 30s, it's proposed under the New Deal. Truman tries to get it passed. LBJ tries to get it passed again, but it's with the Vietnam War, it's not going to have much success with that. And so in the 90s, they're again trying to get universal health care for everybody. So it doesn't start with Obamacare. It really starts with Hillary Clinton in the 90s, if you want to start there. And so you have 39 million Americans without health care. And the population in America, I believe it was about 300 million. Okay, so 39 million without health care. All right, it gets rejected because of the pharmaceutical companies and because the baby boomers are getting older. It's going to be friggin' expensive, and Republicans are not happy about it. It's not the government's job to provide health care. That's too much, too soon. All right, how times have changed. The globalization, what you need to know, GATT, which stands for General Agreement on Trade and Tariffs, and the idea is if you trade with countries, you won't bomb countries and go to war with them. So to encourage free trade, they create the World Trade Organization. And in the 90s, there's something called NAFTA, which ends trade barriers in North America between Canada, United States, and Mexico. All right. So opening up relations. Believe what you will about globalization. Doesn't bother me. There's positive aspects. There's also negative aspects. Check where your clothes are made, and if you're happy with the conditions that the workers are treated, well then keep buying their clothes. If you're not, well then don't buy their product. In terms of crises abroad, there's a lot of different things happening, and then there's a lot of things that are happening at home. In Africa, there's the crisis in Somalia where the government collapses. We are giving aid and assistance. We're supposed to be sending it to the civilians. We're dropping things down, but then both sides are stealing the food, blaming all the other people, and burning crops, and so we're just trying to help is all we're doing. Then we put troops in there as peacekeepers, and they get attacked. And then we say, you know what, Somalia, screw you, we're going home. You're on your own, which is really unfortunate for the next event that happens in Rwanda. You've got the Tutsis and then the Hutu. If you've seen the movie Hotel Rwanda, you know what we're talking about here. If you haven't, check it out. It's a compelling film. Basically, the Hutu are going to start killing the Tutsis, and the United Nations and the United States are not going to do too much of anything. And 500,000 to 1 million Tutsis are going to be killed. Kind of a sad chapter in the United States history because we say, yeah, no more, we'll never let a Holocaust happen, but yet one basically happens. In terms of Al-Qaeda, we have embassies that are going to be attacked in Tunisia, and we're not real happy about that, and so guess what? We respond by bombing Al-Qaeda strongholds in Sudan and Afghanistan. And keep in mind, this is going to be not very successful, low impact, because, well, it's very mountainous in Afghanistan, and it's going to be very difficult. Foreshadowing for things to come. All right, in Iraq, guess what? Our favorite person in the world, Saddam Hussein, just won't cooperate with the United Nations, and so we bomb Iraq once more, and then finally getting him to listen to us again. In terms of Camp David Accords, don't confuse this with the 1970s Camp David Accords under Jimmy Carter. That's successful between Egypt and Israel. This one is between Palestine and Israel. All right, so Palestine wants their own state. Yasser Arafat, a known terrorist, a guy that blew up planes in the 70s, and shows no sympathy for it. He is going to be a leader for Palestine, saying we want our own state. He's going to meet with the leader, Ed Barak of Israel, and guess what? No peace agreement is reached. So an epic failure, and there's still tension in the region today. In terms of Yugoslavia, here's what goes down. Yugoslavia breaks up in 1989, and Slobodan Milosevic is in charge of Serbia, trying to keep power. And so what he does is he starts stirring up ethnic and national tension in Bosnia, and saying that it's Serbian land, blah, 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 blah. And he uses a genocide. And the United Nations starts to do nothing, and then eventually we will start bombing Serbia, and he signs and by he, I mean Slobodan Milosevic, signs the Dayton Peace Accords. And he promises he'll never do it again. But guess what? Give him a couple years, he starts doing it again in a region called Kosovo, which is it's a southern part of Serbia. It's a diamond shape. And he starts stirring up trouble with the Albanians, saying that they don't deserve to be here, they're bad people, and starts a genocide. Here's the Albanian flag right here. Long story short, the United States isn't going to do too much because Bill Clinton is caught up in the sex scandal with Monica Lewinsky. Eventually, our Secretary of State, Madeleine Albright, says, you know what? This has gone on for too long. All right, we said never again would we have a genocide and a Holocaust. But guess what? One happened in Rwanda, one's happening now, one happened in Bosnia. When are we going to do something? Because my family grew up, surviving the Nazi occupation. We should do something. And guess what we do? We bomb Belgrade, and Slobodan Milosevic gives up again. All right. More on that complicated story, but that's the nitty-gritty of what you need to know. We're stopping genocide in the Balkans, and Slobodan Milosevic of Serbia is behind it. All right, terrorism at home. We don't have just crazy people abroad, we've got crazy people at home. Here are some highlights, and there's other terrorist activities too. Ruby Ridge is an area between Idaho and Canada. Basically, Randy Weaver is a white supremacist. The police and marshals are watching him, and there's a shootout, and Randy Weaver's wife and kid get killed, and it just, it stirs up all this call for militias. We need to protect ourselves, and so this flag you really haven't seen since the American Revolution, Don't Tread on Me, you start seeing it in people's backyards and believe that government's too big and too big brother-like. In Waco, Texas, Branch Davidians, which is a cult, they have a shootout with police where tear gas and fire is used. Timothy McVeigh is a Gulf War veteran. He survives this thing, and later on he's going to do the Oklahoma City bombing. In the meantime, you've got New York City, which the World Trade Center is attacked, and it's bad news bears. And so, yes, the World Trade Center is attacked in '93 before it is attacked in 2001. And because this attack happens, more people are going to get out whenever 9/11 happens because of the standard evacuation drills. All right, Oklahoma City bombing. Timothy McVeigh and his buddy Terry Nichols are pissed off at America, and guess what? They blow up the Alfred Murrah building in Oklahoma City, and you've got a bunch of people dead, and 19 of them are kids. It's bad. It's really bad. And there's no real reason for it, except they're mad at America. Wham, wham, wham. All right, 1996 Olympics are going to happen. 2 people are going to die. 111 are going to be injured. You have the Unabomber incident with Ted Kaczynski mailing bombs to people for 18 years. 23 people are going to die. Eventually, I think his brother-in-law or his brother turns him in because he was just a crazy guy living by himself, mentally unstable. So just a long series of just weird people attacking America from within, on top of the Columbine school shooting, where students angry at their peers go in with assault rifles and just start taking lives in Columbine in Colorado. So say what you will about gun control, but just know that the debate starts really with Columbine. You really hadn't had school shootings before. All right, let's try to wrap this up quick. All right. In terms of midterm elections, what you need to know is midterm happens in between presidential terms in office. So Clinton has served now 2 terms, and now we've got Congress elections, and guess what? A bunch of Republicans are going to be nominated. Newt Gingrich comes up with his contract with America, which says we don't want as much welfare. We believe that's taking too much money away. And we also want anti-crime laws passed, on top of other reforms. Bill Clinton does what all great politicians do, meets in the middle, and guess what? He uses the contract with America as a plank and moves welfare to the state level and keeps Republicans happy, keeps the Democrats happy, and in a tough Congress, he gets things done. Not bad for old Bill. All right, in terms of AIDS and drugs, we have 500,000 people dead from AIDS and no signs of stopping anytime soon. On top of drug problems that are just, it has switched from cocaine to heroin, marijuana, all kinds of stuff, drug dealers. It's a very tumultuous time in the 90s and also in the late 80s. Okay, moving on to sex scandals. Sex scandals, Scandals in general. A couple you need to know. The first one you need to know would be President Grant and the Great Barbecue. The second one you should know would be Warren G. Harding and the Teapot Dome scandal. And then you have Nixon with Watergate. All right. And this is the last scandal that you really need to know. Basically, Kenneth Starr is obsessed with finding dirt on Bill Clinton, and he's been obsessed with this guy since he was governor of Arkansas. Whitewater Developmental Corporation is a construction company. He believes that Bill Clinton's making money illegally. He does several investigations, can't find anything. Until an intern for the White House named Monica Lewinsky comes forth and said that she's had sexual relations with the president. It leads to an investigation. They asked Bill Clinton, under oath, did you have sexual relations with that woman? He's like, I did not have sexual relations with that woman. Unfortunately for Bill, there's a dress with his sperm on it. So, I don't know, somehow it got there. It does match his DNA. So, it goes to Congress and they do impeach him. Impeach just means to bring charges against a president. And only 2 presidents have ever been impeached, Andrew Johnson and Bill Clinton, and Nixon would have, but, you know, Nixon's out. All right. Long story short, there is an impeachment trial. The president is impeached, but he is not removed from office, and it just shows that, you know, your sex life and your personal life can be brought in the middle if you are the president. So that seems to be everything you need to know about our dear friend, Bill Clinton. Have a good day, America.